It's finally here. Yo, I am so excited to announce that the Growth Mindset resource is finally here. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Pursuit of Excellence family. So I've been talking about a growth mindset recently and how developing a growth mindset within students is the best way to see student growth. If you haven't heard me talking about that, check out this video right here that talks about why developing a growth mindset is the #1 way to see the student growth that you are looking for. So in a nutshell, developing a growth mindset within student builds the character and the grit and the resilience that students need to become the students that are capable of achieving what it is that we want them to do, capable of achieving their goals, capable of learning the content that you set before them. Before that they can do that, they have to believe that they can, and that's what developing a growth mindset does. It teaches them that you are capable. You are smart and you can learn anything. And just like I mentioned before, it goes a lot deeper than just telling them, the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Between just giving them at the beginning of the year a growth mindset lesson or something like that to teach them what a growth mindset is. I asked this question before. If you're a middle school student, took a shower the first week of school and only the first week of school, how many of you would want to smell them after Christmas? Or as we get into the third quarter or near summertime? Come on, really? No. Not a lot of us, right? But for some reason, we give them a growth mindset lesson at the beginning of the year and then wonder why they stink in June. And that is why I am so excited about this resource, because this resource is not just one lesson, or it's not even just 1 week's worth of lesson. It is 5 resources in one that are designed to be spread out throughout the whole entire school year so that students can develop a growth mindset. I wanted to make sure that I gave you something that I believed in. And like I mentioned before, I really believe in this long-term teaching and development of what a growth mindset is. So I don't want to just put a growth mindset resource out there. Rather, I put out a bundle that will allow you to teach the growth mindset throughout the whole entire year. So what you're going to find inside of it, there are 5 different lessons that are standalone lessons, but that are designed to be spread apart throughout the year so that students can constantly be reminded of what a growth mindset is. So in lesson #1, we learn about what a growth mindset is, and they reflect on it, they answer questions, and there's different activities in which they have to manipulate things, and they respond to a challenge about what a growth mindset is and why I believe that I can learn anything. And then in lesson 2, we go on to what do I do when things get hard? Because we understand that this is a couple weeks later, and at first you get really excited when you learn something new. So everybody says, yeah, I got a growth mindset, I can do anything, But then things start to get hard. So lesson #2 is, what do I do when things get hard? And students answer these questions and they learn about ways to be resilient and self-affirmation and positive thoughts. And then again, they respond to a challenge and a reflection. And then in activity #3, it dives more into about, now things are getting hard, and what do I do when I feel like I can't learn anything? Because we talked about you can learn anything, but what happens when I don't feel that way? What happens when I don't feel like I'm beautiful, even though you tell me so? What happens if I don't feel like I'm smart? What happens if I don't feel like I'm capable? So we start to answer those questions. What happens if I don't feel this way? So there's a video lesson that describes what to do when you're feeling this way, when you're seeing other people have success, but you still haven't had your breakthrough yet. What happens when I'm feeling this way? Do I still believe that I have a growth mindset? And again, it has some reflection questions and some interactive activities that students can respond to and interact with. And then in lesson #4, we dive into some famous people who have had success after failure. Because it's cool enough to recognize that, I have a growth mindset, or my teacher's talking to me about a growth mindset. But to know that there's other people out there that believe in this mindset and that have shown that even when they face adversity, they can overcome it. And these are recognizable and notable names that students can sit back and say, if they can do it, I can too. So it encourages them. So they learn about these particular people and they figure out how to use those examples to apply to their own lives. And in lesson #5, I love it. In lesson #5, we talk about the power of yet. And we talk about the fact that it's a small word, but it's so powerful. The power of yet. Just those 3 letters can build a belief. Like, I haven't succeeded yet. I don't understand math yet. I don't quite get this yet. I don't feel smart yet. So we talk about how to change the narrative from flipping it to an I can't into a I will. I have the potential to. I can push myself to be great. And that's one of my favorite lessons, and that's how we're gonna wrap this whole thing up. So this is gonna allow students to throughout the year be reminded and be constantly taught about what a growth mindset is, that they can then be developed into the student that they are capable of becoming, that's capable of achieving all of their goals, that is capable of achieving everything that's set before them. It makes me think about the curve of forgetting. And I'm gonna put a graphic up on the screen in just a second. But essentially, if you haven't heard of it before, the curve of forgetting represents a study that was done that shows what happens after new material is taught and how much of it is retained. And I find it interesting that when new information is taught, immediately after somebody learns new information, they begin to lose what it is that was taught. So they retain less and less information as time passes. So what the curve of forgetting did, and what the study did, was it taught this new material and it allowed certain intervals of time to pass, and then the students or the subjects in the study were asked to recall information from what was taught. And what we found was pretty interesting. So watch this. When it's initially taught, 100% of the information is retained because it was just immediately taught. But watch, just 18 minutes later, we're already at about a 50% retention rate, which means just after 18 minutes, students have already lost half of what you said, right? And if we follow this particular curve, not looking at the reteaching yet, but if we follow this particular curve, you can see how it consistently declines. And after 3 months, if you never revisit that material, after 3 months, about 30% of what you taught is retained. That means students lost 70% of what was taught on day one, 3 months later. And you can see as the chart goes off the graph that it'll continue to decline over time. So then we wonder that why at the end of the year they can't remember these things. And this holds true with the growth mindset lesson that you give the first week of school. The first week of school, yes, we want to get your policies, procedures, and in our virtual schools, we want to talk about how to set up our Bitmoji classrooms and Zooms and things like that. Yeah, I get it. Okay, cool. And then we talk about a growth mindset because it's warm and fuzzy and it makes everybody feel good and we're grading for participation. Okay, I get that, right? But if we never revisit again, imagine a student that's coming into your classroom that doesn't have a growth mindset, or has a fixed mindset, or doesn't even know what a growth or a fixed mindset is, or hasn't decided what mindset they want yet, So they come into your classroom, first week of school, and they hear about this growth mindset, and you never talk about it again. After 3 months, they forgot 70% of what you mentioned during that growth mindset lesson. So does that sound like a student that is going to lead to ultimate growth? Does that sound like a student that really believes in themselves? Because coming in, they didn't believe in themselves. 12, 13, 14 years, like we talked about before, 12, 13, 14 years of believing I can't. And then you tell them on the first day of school, you can. Well, 3 months later, 70% of that is lost. And I'm back into the, I can't do this, okay? But let's look at what happens with constant reteaching. Look how the graph, every time we reteach, it spikes. We reteach, it spikes. We reteach, it spikes. And if we consistently reteach, look, if there are 5 repetitions within 3 months, we're at a 95% retention rate, which means only 5% was lost. So now imagine that student again that came into your class after 12, 13, 14 years believing that I can't, believing I'm not capable, believing I'm not smart enough. And you come into their class and you coming in as their teacher and letting them know you can, you are capable, you are smart, you are talented, you can learn anything, and developing that growth mindset. And then you teach it to them 18 minutes later. And you talk about it to them another day after that. And then a week after that, a couple of weeks after that. And there are 5 repetitions within that 3 months. And you are teaching the student, you are capable. After some time, that student is now retaining 95% of what you're teaching them, and they're starting to believe, you know what, maybe I can do this. And again, it's been 12, 13, 14 plus or minus years that they've been taught that they can't. And you can rewrite that with the time that you're spending with them and developing the growth mindset. You can break those shackles, you can break those chains, and you can build something new within them. All right? And that's why I love this resource so much, because I know that it's going to be effective. I know it is, because it's not just at the beginning of the year, I'm going to teach this, or I'm going to tell you what a growth mindset is, but I am building and I'm developing over the course of the year something new within you. So just like I always say, even if this resource is not for you, if you check it out and you look at the preview and you're like, I don't think that's gonna work for me, the principle remains the same. And I need you to take the information that I spoke about just now, and I need you to go ahead and build up your students. Even if you don't use my resource, build up your students. I care less about you using my resource and more about student growth. And I need you to take this information and use it to help your students grow throughout the school year, because they are smart, they are talented, and they are capable. Okay? And if you do check it out, go ahead and leave us a review or drop a comment down below to let us know how it's working for you and your students. I love to see student growth. That's my passion. So let's start that conversation. The resource is in the description below. And if it's not for you, make sure that even still, you teach your students and develop within them a growth mindset. All right? So check out the resource. It's in the description below. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.